Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we take one book, break it down bit by bit, section by section, read it, talk about it, make jokes about it, have a good time. And this season, we are doing all of Vernon's Subutex by Virginie Despentes and Frank Wynn. However, this week, we've switched over from Volume 1 to Volume 2, which is something I want to talk to you about later, Brian. But I am Chet Buzz from Open Letter Books, joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox, and a forthcoming book in which people get maimed at Walt Disney World.
Disney World? I can't do Disney World. I've never been there.
Okay.
Plus, people getting maimed at Florida is not really that interesting.
It's just not funny anymore.
That's just newsfeed. I mean, come on. Florida man does this. Florida man does that.
It's like, if you haven't been decapitated in Florida, it's just not newsworthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start off. We're starting off on the right foot this week. So I know that we're doing this early because you wanted to go to the park with your daughter, and I'm curious how you'll get there since you have no gas, unless you have some stored in some plastic bags, as are most of the people in Georgia, from what I understand.
Well, if you're smart enough to, get a plastic bag from CVS, that is a receptacle for. It can be a toy. You can put it over your head and play with it as a toy.
High it.
You can put gasoline in it and just sling it over your shoulder and go ahead and promenade that all the way home. Whatever you need.
I love the vision of someone like holding a plastic bag and like their partner taking like a measuring cup and like trying to pour it into a gas tank.
The sad thing is I can absolutely perfectly picture it.
Yeah.
It's probably somebody wearing a velour tracksuit that's 9 sizes too small. And just, I'm just happy they don't have a cigarette limping out of their mouth as they're that really long, dangly cigarette that you talk with, and like it moves around while you talk.
The ash is just barely hanging.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that Always Sunny in Philadelphia, though, where they solved the gas crisis by like 5 barrels of gas.
Yeah. How crazy. It just made me realize, like, all these shows, society falls apart way faster than it. It doesn't take 28 days. It's like 28 minutes.
Yeah. Guess what? The pipeline got hacked and there might be a shortage, and all of a sudden, like, every Southern flag-wearing motherfucker is buying as much gas as they can possibly do.
Those guys are fine. Like, the rolling coal idiots are fine because all the gas stations have diesel. There's no problem.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's dummies like me that have unleaded gasoline that were screwed.
And don't have a Prius. Where's your Tesla? Where's your Bitcoin Tesla?
So my wife and I, we both have a car. Only one of them works right now. And between the two cars, there are 400,000 miles. So
nice. They're
really old. Mine has like I said, mine has a tape player from a factory installed tape player.
I remember in high school feeling badass for installing my own tape deck, like a special super amp tape deck that I put into my car that had previously only had like the dial system for tuning into AM FM stations.
One of my favorite comedies that's been made maybe the last decade was MacGruber. Did you watch the MacGruber movie?
No, but maybe you told me about it.
It's Will Forte. It's really stupid. It's really dumb. But I just find it really funny because it's really stupid, really dumb. But one of my favorite jokes is he drives a Miata, and every time he parks, it does that really cool close-up of like the key ignition and everything. And he grabs his tape player that you can pull the entire thing out of the car.
Yes.
It's a Blaupunkt or whatever the name of that brand is.
Yep.
He carries it in wherever he goes with the handle. Like all of his important meetings. He's going to the Pentagon. He's holding his tape player with him.
There was some story I read in which that was actually like a bit of it not too long ago. Like that someone forgot to do that, and it was a big problem.
I just remember everybody was stealing car stereos, so you had to have the removable faces.
I had a removable face. You pop that bad boy off, slip it in your back pocket with your comb, and you go.
Now it's just about taking people's lives. Forget.
Yeah, why would I take your stereo when I can just shoot you and take your car?
Yeah. So this is awesome. I feel like I'm like in karate school, and I'm now a green belt. So I've graduated to the next level.
So Kaya pointed out the other day that the dog on the front of volume 1 is Colette, the French bulldog. And I was like, oh, that's what a French bulldog looks like. And
the one with the pretty eyelashes, right?
Yeah. But what is this?
I don't think we've met this pooch yet.
But is it a type of dog you recognize? Because to me, all dogs just fall into the category of dog.
It looks like a poodle, but I don't know.
That's what I said too. But now that I look at it, that feels not accurate. Like,
whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a dog with a.
It could be an Afghan with a 1980s power.
Yeah. And it's a throwback. It's like a bad pun throwback to 90s band.
It's an Afghan with an 80s Shelley Long haircut. I don't know.
Perfect. So we have moved on to volume 2, but you weren't on last week for very long, and when we talked to Frank Wynn about like everything, like related translation, he'll be on 2 more times.
Yeah,
the podcast.
What is with that asshole? He just made it all about him, just talking, as if he like knows the book really well or something. Like,
apparently, I 100% forgot the section where you came on and I whispered, "Frank Wynn is awesome," and I just left that in the podcast.
I feel like I was probably about 7 or 8 drinks behind you by the time I got on the.
Whoa! Yeah, last week was rough. But
what was your takeaway from the? I guess kind of maybe if we could just the initial impression of book 1 and then your talk with Frank. What's kind of the take home you have for both of those?
Well, one of the things that you mentioned in a text that I think is worth going back to is the agedness of the slang. Like, I think that he is the right voice for capturing the people these people are like just slightly older than I am. And like the slang doesn't feel off to me as much as it might to younger people because it's like of my era, I suppose.
It's uncool. It's not. Yeah. It's not. Yeah, and like we were kind of talking, it's like the person that still wears the it's like Robert Coover and his leather jacket, like like that was really cool, like in the 80s, and you're still wearing it, and like it's still
my leather jacket right here,
and it still works, for you, but like it's not like cool. Right. It's like this book. It's like it's a leather jacket that's 2 decades past its prime. Like, yeah, you still have a motorcycle jacket, but you don't drive a motorcycle anymore because you're too old and you'll die if you fall. Right? Like, it's that. And so like they're still cool, but everything's falling apart. Especially like when they talk about their physical bodies, everything's drooping, everything's sagging, everything's I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too like everything is like everything that was sexy and cool and amazing about them is like starting to decay a little bit, and they're still holding on to it in some way. Like that was kind of like a lot. And even when they talk about like the way like that idea of French nationalism, like why can't things be like it used to be? Like all these, people coming here that don't belong here and ruining everything. And there's a lot of angst and this nationalism that you're feeling in book 1.
Actually, this is skipping ahead a lot, but I actually have a contextual question for you. I looked up some of the information, but I didn't get too far into it as I wanted to. But in Patrice's part for this week, he talks about
like 57-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah, exactly, 56.
Yeah.
Melanchon is better than Marine in every way. His only problem in attracting support is that he's not racist. The working class has been so brainwashed over the last decade that the only thing they care about is spewing hatred about ragheads. They've been stripped of the self-respect it took centuries to win. There's not a moment in the day when they don't feel like they're being fleeced. And they've been taught that the only thing that they got to make them feel a little less shitty is to rant about how they're white, so they have the right to put down darkies. And the question I had first reading that was, the fuck's Melanchon? I know a relief pitcher by a nearly similarly spelled name who used to play for the Giants and now plays for the Padres ? But this is not him. And so I looked it up. And do you know who this is?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, so it's like he actually sounds like someone that would be in line with. Oh no, it's gone. Let me find it again. Someone who would be more in line with what you would believe, at least on the surface. Jean-Luc Mélenchon was part of a group, ran for like prime minister in 2012, and his political positions, socialist Republican and historical materialist, He is a proponent of increased labor rights and the expansion of French welfare programs. He has also called for the mass redistribution of wealth to rectify existing socioeconomic inequalities. Best part. Domestic policies proposed by Mélenchon, which I'm saying wrong, include a 100% income tax on earnings over 360,000 euros a year, full state reimbursement for healthcare costs, a reduction in presidential powers in favor of the legislature, and the easing of immigration laws. Mélenchon supports same-sex marriage and women's rights to abortion. He also supports the legalization of cannabis.
Yeah, I don't know why we haven't heard much about him in the United States. But that is the candidate you cancel as quickly as possible.
Like, whoa, slow your roll there, buddy.
And anybody that wants to get behind that person, you need to figure out a way to make fun of them publicly and discredit their opinions of that person.
If I remember right from looking at this last night, though, he won like 19% of the vote by not being affiliated with any party.
Okay.
So yeah, 19. He came in fourth. In the 2017 presidential election, outside the frame of political parties, is how he ran, again coming in fourth with 19.6% of the first round vote. It's interesting. Like, that is really like, yeah, interesting. But we'll get to that. But I was wondering, but that sort of like, that thing, like leading talking about the politics part, Patrice is one of the ones that's like the worst in terms of beating his wife. And we had talked about him being like so much worse than Xavier, or however you want to say. I always think of Professor Xavier, and I will never change that. And but his viewpoints, he's a bad character too. He's a bad male. Patrice is a bad male, and they're bad males in different ways. And in this section, in this part of the book, we have Emily being like, well, they're complete opposites. And when I read that line, I was like, wait, what? And then when I got to this and looked that up, I was like, she's kind of right. Like Xavier is like the racist, political, right-wing side of things. And Patrice is violent.
Violent.
Working class.
Yeah, like the socialist side of that or whatever. So
he's like all my Polish ancestors.
But isn't like anything, like just pick anything and like take it to the extreme, hardcore, and weaponize it, and it's going to be awful and bad.
Yeah.
Like anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what did you think about the end of the first book and the switching over to volume 2?
Yeah, I thought it's interesting that to me it feels more like just one book, but it was too big.
My question.
So they just broke it up. To me, it seems like more like it didn't make sense. Like it resolved itself as this is the end of the book.
Right.
Because there's way too much that's just way too many loose ends that weren't even close to being knotted or like satisfactory in any way, shape, or form for a reader. Unless, like, to me, it's just it's like one volume that they broke into 3 because it's going to be more palatable for a reader.
Or that was season 1.
Sure.
And then if it's successful, you have season 2. And if you're successful, you have season 3 until you wrap it up or whatever. What if it's more like the volume thing is weird to me too, and that's why I put it in like the description of the post or the.
It's probably like playing up the record, kind of like it's a box set sort of thing, maybe.
That's possible.
You're getting volume 1, 2, and 3, but like to me, it just feels like this is just an extension of where we left off on the first one, and it's we're just picking up like previously on, like you get these are the characters. And then
here's another like much more crass and possibly accurate or pragmatic thing is that she wrote 3 volumes of it so she get paid 3 times.
There you go. Yeah, but yeah, it wasn't satisfying to finish the first book because it just didn't end in a way where you felt like anything was accomplished. Like you want to continue on.
It's sort of. Yeah, it is that like that. It is more like a young adult trilogy, though.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, I'm guessing to some degree, not having read a lot of them, but a lot of them feel like they're set up to be. From my youth, I think of books I read as series as being like set up to be another book.
Yeah,
we're always setting up. I guess like comic books too, setting up to be the next thing, and that didn't seem as that's a completely different approach to the way that like the invented part, the dream part, and the remembered part work, where each book is like its own framework, and they're a trilogy, but they're a trilogy that's more like a triptych versus a continual story that's just building one. Although I was thinking about like the idea that like Xavier having the shit kicked out of him and ending up in the hospital is like a good ending to the book. Like,
yeah, I like that. And it's interesting too that it was done by neo-Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they have a lot more in common than they would be led to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, dude, you're beating up the wrong guy. Like he's kind of with you in a lot of things.
He's just too prissy.
Yeah.
He doesn't have enough tats.
Yeah.
And like it being like the first volume being like very distinctly the decline of Vernon.
Yeah, I mean, like with the final kind of sentiment being like, I am a bum in Paris.
I am a hobo on a hill.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was most interesting about Frank's conversation last week was the pseudonym, which I knew was a pseudonym. I don't remember how it's referenced in volume 1, but I think it is at one point. Oh,
it's an odd name. I didn't look in. I don't like to try to like take people's character names and try to cipher out what it means for the story necessarily. It's fun to do, but I try to stay away from it. But Vernon Subutex felt like something's going on with that. That's just not a name.
Right. And so the one time it came up in volume 1 is that the girl that's the bartendress here, Celeste, who used to visit him at the record store and that he thinks is picking him up, and she's really not. She's like, what's your name? He's like, Vernon Subutex. And she's like, what the fuck kind of name is that? Is the first thing you get like, oh, this isn't like a normal name, but it's not like a pension name where you like recognize the game or the joke or the whatever.
Yeah.
And so it was really useful for Frank after like having read all 3 of these, reading the jacket copy for all 3 of these, talking to various people who fucking know French and never knowing what that pseudonym meant, that Subutex is Methadone.
There you go.
And like he said, the part that you weren't on, if you didn't hear it, was that they couldn't have the title be like Vernon or Methadone. That would be weird. And but Subutex sounds interesting. You don't know what it is. But then when they're saying phrases like looking for Subutex, they're all in the park looking for Subutex. That's a lot funnier. But also like that Vernon is from Vernon Sullivan. Vernon Sullivan was an imaginary American writer from the South who wrote a novel about a black man being lynched after having sex and or raping a white woman. And Boris Vian, the famous French writer, who died at like 35 when they made, I think it was 35, they made a movie version of I Shall Spit on Your Graves, and he tried to be involved with it, and they kicked him off the set. They wanted nothing to do with him. He was like a enfant terrible sort of character, and he went to the premiere, he snuck in, and the first scene came on, and the myth is that he stood up and he said, "These are supposed to be Americans, my ass," and died of a heart attack. But he had claimed to have translated this book that he found on his tour through because he was obsessed with Dixieland in like the South, the American South of that period. And he claimed to have translated this into French. And then someone was murdered in a way similar to like what's described in the book, like a lynching. And he had to go on, it became a trial, and he admitted that there was no Vernon Sullivan. So Vernon Subutex, the Vernon supposedly is from that Beyond book, which I think is maybe also you don't need to know, but it's why Vernon doesn't seem weird to us.
Yeah.
But it does within a French context, this name is much more loaded in the way that and this comes up with translation a lot of what do you do with names? Like we have a book that's out now or about to come out by Sarah Mesa called Among the Hedges, in which the characters in Spanish are Casi for almost, because she's almost 14, she's Casi Catorce, and Viejo or El Viejo for the old man who comes to see her. And the translator, Megan McDowell, translated them into soon and old man. And so because her assumption was that people wouldn't understand the Spanish, and there's no way around this. And that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But this book has an echo of that in the sense that this name doesn't register for American readers in the way that registers for French readers. I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And, but again, I don't know how much it matters. I mean, like you said, looking for Subutex in a bum park is funny, right? There's more humor there that normally would be missed. But outside of little jokes or little insight, wink, wink type of things, that's really not that impactful, I don't think.
I mean, if it hadn't been,
it just makes you enjoy it more if you know it.
It's sort of like the Lost thing, knowing the books that are behind the thing. And yeah, I agree with that totally. I do think that it never occurred to me that it wasn't his real name unless it would have been said. It wasn't. overtly like weird. So that's interesting. We do have a quick question from the audience. So we have in this section, so we've switched over from at the end of book 1 where Vernon's on the street. We have Javier, whoever, beat the shit out by the neo-Nazis in the hospital. And we get like 3 or 4 sections this time. We get 4. We get Vernon being homeless, like being legit homeless, and not knowing what to do exactly. And then we get to hear about Charles, who is a secret bum millionaire. And then we get to hear about Emily, who, along with everyone else, is searching for Subutex because she had the tapes. And then when at one point in time, and then we get Patrice's section, and in between those two, you find out that the tapes, the backpack that Vernon had left in exchange for her laptop, was stolen from her room. And we have a question from Kaya saying, who do you think stole the backpack? Who do you think stole the backpack, Brian?
Ooh, it's like a Hardy Boys. Well, there's the confrontation. Well, it's not really a confrontation, but the conversation with the ex-porn star Pamela, right?
Yeah.
And someone's following Pamela, who's wearing like an ill-fitting purple sweater. And she seems to be nervous about it.
I thought the purple sweater person was Daniel.
Okay.
I might be wrong about that.
But there's something, Pamela's like a little bit nervous, and that's kind of like that noir scene where the femme fatale shows up, and she seems like she's guilty of sin, but there's actually something behind her that's making her act weird or nervous, and that's the true culprit, and I think it's whatever that is.
I don't remember clearly, so this is at least a semi-uneducated guess, but I'm going with Hyena.
The Hyena, that's a good one.
Hyena knows all these people and
has the skills, like actually knows what. Yeah,
private investigator.
Yeah, doesn't tamper anything, just like goes in, gets it, and is out. Yeah,
and then so she secretly finds, and then the question will be, what does she do with it? They reference it as a MacGuffin in this, which is a nice little meta moment. Like, okay.
Yeah, because weren't we saying that in the first? Like episodes, like, so we get this MacGuffin thing, right? Like, who cares what it is? It's just the thing.
Drives everything, but it's actually like a big plot point later on. Yeah. I don't know that MacGuffins, I don't know exactly what the rules are for what qualifies as a MacGuffin or not. Like, if it can become a major revelation at a later point in the movie or artwork, or if it has to be like just the frame that puts things in motion and has no consequence.
I don't know. With this, it seems like it definitely feels very MacGuffin because it's more about the characters and what's going to hang them together. And which part do you want to go to in this to talk about? Are there sections that stood out to you in this thing? I mean, Vernon's section is fine. I think the Charles section is interesting because this is the first new character of volume 2. Everyone else is a repeat. And aside from Vernon, I don't think did we get a repeat of Xavier, maybe? We didn't get many repeats in volume 1. Not a lot. I mean, you're kind of being introduced to quite a cast in the first one. And
this is the first time we go back to people.
Yeah.
In a more concerted way. So Charles like goes and brings beer to like various people and hangs out. And we find out that he was like a long time just boozer with his wife. What's her name? Not Vera, but something with a V. Whatever it is. Vero. It's pretty close. But Vero, or however you'd say it in French, probably croissant. But they were both like hardcore boozing, like alcoholics who are like living together, not married, just like kind of just, they sound so gross and like so just like a wretched, dirty, like French life. And then he plays the lottery for whatever reason because he's an inveterate gambler and plays the numbers because why not, and wins millions and decides one of my favorite bits of like and analyzing someone's mind for what happens is like nobody can know about this because this is just going to be a problem. Like, bitch is gonna want to get married. This other one's gonna come and give me take a paternity test. Motherfucker's gonna be all over me for money. Like nobody. This is a hassle.
It kind of, in some ways, it reminds me of like there's a comedic bit about if you grow up in the ghetto and like one person makes it out, like say they do well in school or become wealthy, or they make it as like as a celebrity of some kind or an athlete of some kind. The call is, "We made it." Like, what do you mean we? Yeah. We made it. Like, oh, you made it? We all made it now.
I mean, it's like how much
he's hanging with these like unsavory characters that are all down on their luck. So if he makes it, we made it.
Yeah.
Nobody can know.
Isn't it? I'm sure there are like much more like insightful things in this, but part of like the difficulty with Entourage is related to that. Like who is like really there for you, and who is like a hanger on, and who is like trying to exploit this for the time that they can, and like where that all falls in a line is interesting when you do have like seemingly endless amounts of wealth at that point.
One of my favorite lines from the Charles section, Chalet section is on 13. You can't be a boozer and be choosy about the company you keep.
I have so many that I love his. He's always had a soft spot for crazy women. He likes his women mad and ugly. It's a good one. And then maybe my favorite one that's the dirtiest is he wasn't going to take a train for a blowjob.
Yeah, hence Olga. He wanted to be hanging out with Olga.
Yeah, he wants to hang out with Olga. He likes Olga.
Do you think is Bozo the Clown? Does everybody know who Bozo the Clown is? You think? I mean, like, obviously we would know it because we had it as like syndicated television as kids and stuff. But I wonder if someone under the age of like 35 or 30 is going to know who Bozo the Clown is. I wonder.
That's like a line, because Bozo the Clown was more famous even if you didn't see the show. I knew growing up who Bozo was before seeing Bozo on TV. Like it was like the paragon of clown.
Yeah.
It's Krusty. It's Krusty the Clown is Bozo the Clown.
It's the male pattern baldness, side afro, and the red nose. Like what you think of like a clown. That's Bozo, right? Like he's like,
hey, hey kids, welcome to Bozo's Happy Hour.
Oh man, nightmares! Nightmares about that.
Yeah. But why Bozo?
Why Bozo? What do you mean?
Why did you bring up Bozo the Clown?
Oh, because there's a line in there. I think it's on page 13 where talking about someone was calling Olga Bozo the Clown. She's giant and she's fat and she has like red afro hair, and so they call her a clown.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm just wondering if that's a reference that is like, to me, like, I obviously know who Bozo the Clown is. I assume most people will know who that is as well.
Too. Yeah, I can't get past that. I see that I have the mocking part marked, but not the Bozo the Clown part. That is interesting.
I'm curious about this. As for you as an editor, when you're publishing stuff, do you encourage or discourage pop culture references? Do you care?
It truly does depend, like, on the nature of the book. Like, if it's something that's clearly ephemeral, that's like of the moment, it can still go either way depending on what works. Like, say pop culture references in Frazan's books, like, encourage those because they're not necessarily of the moment, and the books are that's a crucial part of the texture of the writing. If someone's just trying to drop in references that will age too quickly, I think that's a problem. And so it could be like,
because on this, for instance, like Bozo the Clown, that's a totally fine pop culture, not a big deal. The ones that stick out to me are like WhatsApp and Facebook or Twitter or those type of things. Those are gonna age like bread, like, right?
Like, most likely, the one I was gonna say is references to advertisements.
The music ones totally fine. The actors totally fine. You can like Google movies. Yeah, because I had one.
Although I don't know who this Vladimir Nabokov is that Frazan writes about all the fucking time in his new book.
Yeah, get over it.
I don't know. That guy, like, I think that he's a flash in the pan.
Because I had, you take stuff with a grain of salt, but I had one instructor in my MFA was really harsh about pop culture references, because young writers love to use pop culture references. I think maybe it's like when you're maybe less seasoned. It like makes you feel fresh and relevant and like edgy and stuff. And that's not what this is by any means. But he was he would very much discourage using pop culture references. Like, it just dates your work and it doesn't overwrite. And I'm just that Bozo the Clown reference made me wonder what your thought is on pop culture references.
Here's a more nuanced response to your question based on 20 seconds of thought, is that when it's character based, it's fine. So like Bozo the Clown is a reference to make sure that we know that Charles is old.
Yeah.
Like if Charles is even like our age, my age is like cusp of that, like very end, very beginning syndication, very much like not my time, but someone who's 10, 15, 20 years older in their like 60s. Yeah, that's like their thing. That makes sense to them. If they were referencing a clown, like is there a famous clown today? It wouldn't make any sense. Like, I think there's like some sad clown that sings songs or some shit that was on some fucking shitty reality show for singing at some time, probably called Charles the Crying Clown or some junk. That would not make any sense at all. But then there's the Bret Easton Ellis vein of things of where everything is a brand. Yeah. And so I think there's a difference between the writers who use references as a way of constructing a character's age, demographic, intelligence, point of view, that stuff, that totally makes sense. If they're using it to like construct an identity in a more like facile way of like the surface of things, which I think that a lot of younger writers do, especially nowadays, because they don't know how to write. They know how to Instagram. They don't, thankfully no one is watching this at this moment. And I don't think the people involved will watch this, but I've been reading the new Granta best Spanish language novelist and not impressed. Hot take, horribly not impressed.
Did Valerie Miles help edit that one?
And as did Rodrigo.
Who else?
Rodrigo Frazan.
Did it as well?
Aurelio Mejor, Chloe Ardigues. I'm not sure how you say her last name. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of people I'm blanking out on. But I don't dislike any of the stories, but all of them feel childish in a way that I don't think the last one did. I feel like they feel of this moment in a way that they're underdeveloped and less lasting.
Was the last one in 2011? Did they do it every 10 years?
2010. I had to go back and look this all up just the other day, and it drove me crazy. I had to post in 2011. It's 2010. It came out.
Published a couple of the people that were on the 2010 one. What?
I believe six.
I know you did Zambra and Labe, right? They were
Labe, Newman, Schweblin.
Oh, that's right. Newman and Schweblin. You've done Schweblin?
We did a short story of hers. Her short story of hers was in one of our anthologies. I thought we did 6, but I might be lying to you. Let's see.
Pola's in there, right?
Yeah.
You haven't done any of her work, but I mean.
No, I don't think so. No. Okay, it's 4. It's those 4.
Okay. Interesting.
I thought there's somewhere it said there's 6. It might be that there's a chance that 2 of the other ones, like Schweblin, were in one of our anthologies, mm-hmm. and I just counted them as being published. And I don't know, looking back, if this would be different. But looking at this one, I'm like, man, I feel A, old, and B, like, I don't know that I'm into young people's books anymore.
But again, it could be like the way we were talking about that kind of interesting tightrope of translation choices that Frank was making, trying to make them sound like sadly cool, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like the pop culture references serve in that as well, because it definitely puts it in the moment of a time, and their response to their city is like of the moment of the time, right? With this. Yeah. Like sweeping nationalistic kind of pressure, like this, with the immigration, and then with the way the characters are reacting to it in different ways. It seems very like poignant and of the moment. And the WhatsApp and the found him on my Facebook and the hashtag, like that works well with being this like right here, right now. Like it purposefully sets it at a certain time, so that as this book does age and you read it again, like, oh yeah, that's like when Trump was president and like shit was going crazy around Europe too. Wow. Like, Yeah, I think, I believe, didn't we figure out this is set in 2012? I might be wrong about that, but like
for some reason, again, that came up to me last night, that 2012 seems like the year that it would be essentially taking place. And one of the things I think is interesting as we go forward with this is the discussion.
It's really hard to nail down when people in power are hating immigration in their country. So
I know. It's like,
when in time do people feel like that, I wonder?
I did it looking up that politician that I think he ran in 2012 and 2017, which makes weirdly no sense, but some sense. And then there was something else about it that made me think that it was 2012. I can't remember now, but and maybe Frank said it. Who knows? We talked far beyond, for anyone listening to this, we talked far beyond what was recorded last week. Like, you have hours to come that are not going to, those hours are not recorded, but like when we do the next podcast, he has a lot of interesting things to share and is really valuable. And he may have mentioned it then too, but I keep putting in that 10, 12 area, which I think is interesting going forward with some of the arguments in this volume, in this first section of this volume, and when it's talking about like workers' rights and workers, the relationship between capitalism, the welfare state, and workers, blue collar workers in particular, but like workers and Marxism in France at that point in time. Mm-hmm. Because I'm curious how that will resonate with us now, because America has always been like more on the side of the corporation than France is. Like, I think of France as still being like fairly to the left of like wanting to provide healthcare, maternity leave, protection of workers, the ability to strike, like the fact that they bring up the Barcelona or Spanish strike, but Barcelona strike in the last volume when they get there, and that it's not like condemned. And I don't think that we would condemn it either, but I don't know. Like, what would happen if like New York City just went on strike for a week?
Well, I mean, take like there's a famous like why do people who love Ronald Reagan? Why do they love Ronald Reagan?
Because of hugs, not drugs.
Yeah, that. But he told air traffic controllers, like, you report to work on Monday or you're all out of jobs, period.
Yeah.
We don't strike here. This is America. We don't do that here. And everybody showed up and everybody put it all down and they showed up to work. And it's like, hooray, the president won. These people don't get whatever they wanted to make their lives better. Fuck you.
Yeah. Reagan's responsible for I know that there's an act, and I believe that he was part of it, of like that transport workers can't strike in America. Because there's that airline strike that was going to happen that was part of that too. He also like fucked up like the unemployment, fucked up minimum wage, and instilled drug tests. Like, that was like the most anti-worker you can imagine. So like, yeah, the relationship of like the worker to the power structures within France in these books is going to be curious going forwards, because I think it might play somewhat of a role in a lot of these characters' lives. And that's where like Patrice, I still don't think I don't know how you can redeem Patrice necessarily, but in here he sounds so much more reasonable than Xavier and then anyone has before, in terms of literally workers' rights, where he's like, these people don't even understand how badly they're fucked. Yeah. Like, they just don't even get it anymore.
I think there was a neat line that I really liked. I've been reading King Kong Theory, and one of her first essays, I think it's called Bad Lieutenants. I won't get it exactly, but actually I'll get it exactly because it's right to do that. Since
who's getting fucked in the ass?
We're nothing but professional here. So
it's who's taking it up the ass? You or me is one of the essay titles.
Yeah, I like that one too. Well, I don't have it. I didn't underline it. I thought I did, but I like the fact that she mentioned something that she's happy with, like the way she is. Like, she sees herself as ugly and undesirable, and she's happy to be like that because she wants to desire more than she wants to be desirable.
Yes,
and I really kind of like let that kind of like sow itself in my mind. Oh, it's on page 6 of King Kong Theory. I guess it starts on page 5. I'm happy with myself as I am, more desiring than desirable.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes on and does the listing the way she does in Subutex as well. I read from here, from the warehouse of unsold women, the psychos, the skinheads, those who don't know how to accessorize, those who are scared they stink, who's with rotting teeth, blah, blah, blah. But when I'm trying to think about like with Patrice and how to make him redeemable, he's somebody who desires, but he's definitely not desirable in any kind of way. And I feel like maybe like that line made me think of how she's able to try to get sympathy, make us be sympathetic of her characters. They're all ugly. We always talk about she writes them warts and all.
Yeah.
But we feel their desires and we feel their wants, and I think we can identify with that. And then maybe we'll see more of that with Patrice. I
mean, okay, so here's the positive parts about Patrice. Patrice hates the fact that the financial markets and that the corporations have taken away all the power, that the alliance between banks, religions, and multinationals have won. He also hates pornography. He feels sullied by pornography. He feels exploited. And here's a question for you. If this term is fitting.
I feel exploited when I watch pornography. But wow.
So pornography do you like the best?
really twisted there. Way to go.
I look for Brazilian transsexuals. No, to tie into Vernon's thing. But no, he goes forward, like he feels exploited what he can do. Real men take it on the chin. They don't bleat like some fucking snowflake. And that was the first time I was like, does snowflake date back that far? And like that term of it? Or is that term more recent in that sort of the way that's using it? I don't remember. But he's also like, yeah, so he also like feels sympathy for Emily for being like not sexy the way that she used to be, and like that people will never feel that way towards her. He feels bad about that. Like he has like legit like the human emotions towards all that stuff, even though we know that he also is like incredibly violent. But he's trying to pick up the young bartendress by showing her his tattoos, by like pulling his sleeves, and they're like, you're just
I love how much she didn't care. And then like Emily calls him out on his bullshit. Like, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? Like, you're staring at her, you creep. And he's like, no. Like I'm watching her work and thinking about the working struggles. No, you're like staring at her ass. Like, oh, is that obvious? Like, yes, it's obvious. I really like that part. It makes me kind of think that there's some kind of perhaps interaction between Emily and Patrice that's going to take place at some point.
I do too. Yeah, here's the part that I was looking at.
And they both play bass, right? They both play the bass guitar. So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, so this is the part about her. To think that he can still remember back to when the band were on tour in Brittany, and the same woman is popping tabs of acid, wash them down with coffee, first thing in the morning, quote, because she just found them at the bottom of her handbag. These days, her hairstyle is like something his mother would have. Jesus, fuck, but people change. He doesn't know what to say. There's an awkward silence. He feels sorry for Emily, sorry that men are disgusted by women of her age. This is how Patrice sees things. 40 is beyond the pale. He can't bring himself to think of fucking some woman who reminds him of his mother. Gentleness, tenderness, sure, why not? But sexual desire, no way. And there's a lot in here too. And then Emily never had a child. The child thing comes up a bunch in terms of the social construct of like, if you had a child, then you wouldn't be on the streets. You would have support. And if you are a woman of that age, if you haven't had a child, then like you're not desirable, and you don't have anyone to continue loving you. Like it's really dark in like the things that are baked into societal thought from that perspective. And at the same time, Patrice has a sense of sympathy, has a sense of like that sort of like awareness in some nascent level of that this isn't quite right. Although maybe he has more coming at it from the viewpoint of like the worker that's always going to be rejected. Yeah. That if you age out of your job real quick.
Yeah. I love too, very near to that, there's we get kind of, deeper into Emily's mind where she's looking at like the latest fashion someone's wearing. Oh yeah. And she knows she doesn't have the body to wear that exact look, but then she kind of has like this cognitive dissonance of like, well, even if I could, I don't know if I'd really want to wear that or not. But like deep down, we know that like she knows she's feeling like I'm not what I was, so what am I now? Kind of thing. But I think anybody that's aging can identify with that in some kind of way. Yeah, I really like that part, and especially when you juxtapose that with, the way Patrice is just completely like awfully objectifying her. Like it gives so much weight to what she's already feeling, kind of hiding the best that she can, because she knows it's there. The way that the male gaze is like cast upon her.
The thing that like hit me the most in her section was where she says she buys clothes that are too small because she'll lose the weight to fit into them. And I was like, oh, yeah.
I have a pair of swimming trunks I haven't worn in 10 years because I was like, oh, these are going to fit next summer.
I got into my skinny jeans last weekend when everything was dirty, and they fit, and I didn't hurt myself. So I'm feeling a good ride here. But like, alas, yeah, that one's a little close to home.
It's interesting. There was this was what published in 2020. 2018, 2015, translated 2018.
Yeah.
American 2020. Okay. I like that scene where she's like immediately she takes off her jeans and puts on like a ripped pair of like tights, or just like put on your like I'm at home loungewear, like the Hello Kitty shirt and the ripped seam pants, or whatever. Because she's been wearing these completely uncomfortable muffin top jeans all day, fighting with them all day. Like, get me out of this. Let me just be myself.
And it's like that situation, that sort of comedic bit works better pre-pandemic too. Right. Now it's just like, oh no, that's how I do everything.
But I noticed there was Coors Light is getting crushed by White Claw, or I don't know what. But there was a recent Coors Light commercial I was watching where it focuses on a woman coming home from work, and she's cracking open a Coors Light, and as she does it, she undoes her bra and takes it off through her shirt and throws it, and it's like, finally, you can get rid of this and relax. Here's a Coors Light, like for that moment, like when it's Coors time, and so it was a really interesting branding decision they made.
It's very, very similar to have you seen the one where the two guys get up in the morning to watch soccer?
Oh, yeah.
Wearing sweatpants, and he pulls out of the sweatpants cans of Coors Light, and they're like breakfast beer or beer for the morning. And you're like, yeah. What an interesting idea.
It's like Coors Light. It's not just for your alcoholic stepfather anymore. When you get home from work, you're tired. Take your bra off and have a Coors Light. It's Coors time. Let's go.
It's so interesting that they've gone from the Twins commercials to that.
Yeah, exactly. They went from
Party Bros, get your Twins titties, and now they're like morning beer.
Yeah.
And people just not wanting to wear work clothes anymore.
Wearing a bra at work is really uncomfortable. Take it off and have a Coors Light.
Oh, I agree with that. That's way worse than having to wear a tie, and I feel like both are like awful.
I just thought it was
if you
really
wear them. If you want to wear whatever you want to wear.
I thought it was just interesting branding choice. That scene reminded me of that get out of how you're trying to present yourself to the world and being yourself.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's see if there's anything else I marked that I think we should go over for this one. It's a nice little beginning. So our new part is like trying to find Vernon, and the tapes are back in play.
It's the mystery of who done it.
There's the great part of like, there's a bit towards the end of this section. I think it's on like even like 68. It is, what the fuck can he possibly have said that so many people are obsessed with these tapes?
As I say, it's what's on it and who done it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any guesses?
Maybe it's like the something about he has like a kid, and a strange kid he hasn't told anybody about. And so it's the mystery of like his confession letter to, I don't know. That would be
Aisha's dad. Sorry, not Aisha's mom.
That would be my lame idea of how to tie it all together. I would have it be some.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I don't know.
How about he buried a treasure chest somewhere in the city?
Oh, that'd be the best.
it's a national treasure. It's
Do you remember?
It's Da Vinci Code meets.
Did you meet Jackie and John that owned the bookstore, Village Gate Bookstore, that used to be here in Rochester? They used to be at all of our. No. I know you did. They were.
Seen them.
Yeah, they're very, very sweet. And they were at all of our galas and everything. And Jackie passed away right before the pandemic, and John passed away just a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And they had a house in the 19th ward filled with like everything. They collected anything, like weird posters, weird like costumes. And like John would make up, he had this like alternate persona as a rapper called like the Mad Professor, and would do shows and like in like Andy Kaufman like style. And like it was like amazing. And if he has a will, I guarantee it's like it's a mad world. It's gonna be like whoever finds whatever, it's gonna be a series of like weird gags and like yeah. So hopefully that's what the tapes have.
Yeah, I hope
this goes from being like a social commentary into slapstick.
I hope it's just like the briefcase on Pulp Fiction, where it doesn't really matter. You don't get to see it. It's just more about the search for it.
Interesting. So like in terms of plot devices, if the main structure of the first book is to get Vernon into the absolute most destitute state, where like even at the beginning of book 2, nobody knows where he is. These people want to help him and can't find him.
Yeah,
like he's gone. It's to get him to that lowest point. And the tapes set that in motion around him. Then like how those two things will re-intersect will be interesting. Like which one takes more prominence? Vernon's life, who's the book's named after, or the consequences of the tapes, which are driving 17,000 other characters to like be somewhat involved with this.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It reminded me of that plot device they used a lot in the 80s, where somebody dies, like in the group of friends, and they all have to go to the wake, or they all have to go to the funeral, and their lives played off each other because they're not who they were when they all knew each other in college or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of like that feel.
Well, yeah, that's sort of like that structure of like having that mirror to be able to have the past and present and illuminate like how people change and what their thoughts are. And like she does that so well in terms of like parsing out like it's really, from my memory, the third book is the one that had the most lines where I was just like, this is right on point for like how people feel or how I feel or like a viewpoint of something. And it happens throughout, but I felt like it got more and more rich the more and more these characters become full characters. They already are, but like the recurrence of them and like what they do and what they think about these different situations or moments that they're put into is really key. So it is like an interesting, it's a device, and at the same time it's like not a bad one, because it allows you to have like a 3-dimensional character that otherwise would come off as like I feel like that might be like the problem with like the younger writing that I'm bitching about right now, is that young people are too unidimensional. They don't have, you can't do things because you're going to get canceled. You can't have alternate opinions because they're just not popular. So every character is just sort of one thing. Everything feels like it's one note in a lot of contemporary fiction to me, of like, oh, that's the bad guy. That's the person who is woke. That's the person who is this. And like, that's it. And this is like a much more intelligent and in-depth look into like the complications of age, of knowing, of having layers of knowledge, of like the knowledge of when you were a punker was what I was going to say, which isn't a word. When you're punk rock, when you're a punk, then when you were like just outside of that trying to have a career, when you're trying to have a family, when you know that that's not really a good goal, like when you like as it goes through, like having all those layers. And it's something that, again, like probably why young people don't understand these books very well. I'm taking a big shit on young people today, and I not apologize. Unapologetically go fuck yourself. So do you have a favorite line? That's how we alienate all of our readers. Listeners, got a favorite line?
I can find out. I like the one about I really liked again when we got it's not a favorite line. I already read the one. It goes back to Charles, where I liked how if you're going to be a drunk, you have to like be willing to hang out with everybody. But on page 25, a pen pusher and a ruthless card sharp. I always thought it was Card Shark for some reason.
Really?
Because there was a TV show called Card Sharks.
Yep.
But Card Sharp makes so much more sense. And it's like, oh my gosh, I had that wrong my whole life.
I forget where I learned that, but I learned that like some years ago and never forgot it, but had the same reaction that you're having now. Where I was like, are you kidding me? And I looked it up and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. It's like hanging on tenterhooks is one of those weird ones too.
Yeah. Well, it's Card Sharp. It's not Card Shark. Although I think the dictionary just gave in and like enough people got it wrong where it's like, fine, just Card Shark works too.
The one that reminds me of is minuscule. Minuscule is generally spelled wrong, and the dictionary literally says because it's been spelled wrong, like most of the time, we'll accept both. We've given up.
So I got a kick out of that one in this section.
This is the one I like. If you're selling booze, you need alcoholics, not lightweight sipping strawberry.
Yeah, that aperitif. I don't want you getting drunk. I don't want you drinking aperitifs.
If I own a bar, I need you to be here every day, and I need you to be getting shots. I need you to be doing all the good stuff. None of this fucking strawberry daiquiri, one drink, maximum bullshit.
That's how you know this is a European book. Can you imagine an American bar, somebody ordering, could I have some Kirsch, please? I'll just have just a cream sherry, just a little bit of cream sherry.
Just a touch. Anyways, anything you want to plug or recommend?
No, I recommend absolutely nothing right now.
Solid.
Nothing worth recommending. Gas. I recommend gas and a baggie. Go get it.
Baggie, go to Costco, buy a lot of plastic bags. They probably have like a 500 pack in Costco of plastic bags that you can just get in a box, and you can take those straight to your local Sunoco and just fill them, tie them at the top. They won't leak. It's totally fine. Get your gas. Don't let these goddamn socialist motherfuckers controlling the gas line with their environmental socialist jihad control your consumption of guns and trucks.
Are you having a bad day today?